Hello there, my name is Timothy, Tim to my few friends, and I work at Cranebridge's waterproof plaster factory, you know the ones you stick on your cuts. I have worked there about 14 months now, and I thoroughly enjoy my work. I work on a machine that produces 1-meter-long waterproof plasters. I load up 3 reels with different tapes, and these come out the other end of my machine as meter-long plasters, and then they go onto a conveyor belt, where there are 6 girls waiting to pack them in the small boxes. The more I turn out, the more bonus they get. My job really is to make sure everything is aligned so they come out all nice and even, no rejects. I live at home with my mom. She works part-time as my father passed away in a motorcycle accident 6 years ago, going too fast on a slippery road on a bend. They said it was quick for him, so that's one blessing. By nature, I am a quite reserved type of person. I have always found it hard to get on with the other men. I find them a bit intimidating. It could be because of my appearance. I am 19 years old and have a face of a 13-year-old. I don't even shave yet. I haven't even got a whisker, let alone 2. I also have natural blonde hair and dark blue eyes. And just to finish it off, I have a very soft voice, which hasn't broken yet. What more could a man ask for? I think most of the men and women think I'm gay because of the way I look and speak, but that's not the case. I think the girls I work with are a great bunch, except for Doris, our head honcho. She can be quite intimidating sometimes, especially when she's annoyed with someone. She has the loudest voice I have ever heard, and a very stinging vocabulary. So, we are all aware not to upset her, well, not too much anyway. The other girls I work with are June, who's 27, Christine, who's 24, Lisa, who's 28, Mary, who's 22, and Tracy, who's 25. They are always laughing or joking. It seems to me that they never seem to run out of breath talking, yet they work as hard, if not harder than anybody else. We all get on really well together. They pull my leg a lot and make rude comments, but it all is just funny banter. We even have our breaks and lunch together in the works canteen. It's really fun sometimes as they talk about their boyfriends and what they had got up to the previous night. They know that I haven't got a girlfriend, but they never mention it. I think they don't want to embarrass me, but I don't mind because they are such fun and on the whole really nice to me. But as normal, we all have secrets, mine being that I like to dress up as a girl. I am a very lucky person because my mother knows about it, and she takes the attitude that if I'm not hurting anybody, then there is no harm done. The only stipulation she has given me is that I stay indoors when I'm dressed, which suits me fine. I help her around the house. I do some of the cooking and cleaning, do some of the washing and ironing, general things, and we get on well as mother and daughter when I am dressed. She even calls me by my feminine name, Tanya. Well, it was about 18 months ago now that I went to work that as normal in the morning, but without noticing that I had not taken all of my mascara or eyeshadow off properly. It was still faintly noticeable. I think I had got so used to taking my makeup off, I had got lazy, and not double-checked it was all gone. Well, one of the girls noticed, and it had to be Doris. She came over to me in our break and said in a bit of a sarcastic voice, and quite loud, "Tim, is that mascara and eyeshadow you're wearing?" All the girls looked at me, then at my eyes. June looked really hard and said, "It is, isn't it? You're wearing mascara and eyeshadow." I went very red and said, "No, it's just a bit of black from the machine that I must have rubbed into my eyes." Of course, Doris snapped back, "Yes, and I'm the Flying Dutchman too." Well, lucky for me, the bell went and we had to go back to our work, but the whole episode had got me rattled all day. I mean, how are the women going to take it? Or what would they say? Or worse, what would they do? Would they still want me to work with them or not? Questions, questions, and more questions. The bell went later on for the finish of our shift and I left as soon as I could, not stopping for anybody or anything. I got home and had the worst night I had ever had, thinking and dreaming about what was going to happen tomorrow. What should I say if I was asked again, which I would be? Could I bluff my way out? I knew the answer already. No, I did not have a poker face. I just went red. The next morning I had breakfast, the condemned man's last meal, I thought. Then I put on my work clothes and stood by the door for a few minutes. Then opening the door, I dragged my feet as I went to work. Every step became harder and harder to take. I clocked in and went to our table in the canteen, where we awaited the bell to start work. There was only Doris, of all people there. I took a big deep breath, put a smile on my face as if it was just a normal day, and said, "Good morning, Doris, and how are you today?" Big mistake. She looked straight at me with those piercing eyes and said, "You're one of those, aren't you? You pretend to be a woman, and you like dressing up as one as well, don't you, as well as putting on makeup on?" I gulped. I just said in a very quiet voice, "Yes." Then she started, not quite screaming at me but not far off of it. "You don't know what it's like to be a real woman, having to get dressed every day in her bra, panties, tights, skirts or dresses, making sure everything matches, wearing high heels all day as they cripple your feet, making sure you look your best, having to put on creams day and night to help stop the wrinkles coming, having to shave your legs and armpits so they look nice, having to do your hair every day so it always looks smart, being judged by men more for your looks than your brain, let alone having periods every month. While you play at dressing up for a few hours, just because you feel like it, and when you stop, you can go back to being a slob of a man, not caring about anything." By now my face was scarlet. She seemed to calm down after that rant, while I hoped she had. Then she added, "But if that's your thing," and walked off. The girls started to trickle and then, they all sat down at the table looking at me. I thought, here we go again. Mary was first to speak. She spoke quietly. "Tim, we all had a good honest talk about this last night down the pub. We know you like wearing makeup because we all saw it on you, and you probably like dressing up as a girl as well." She paused a moment. "Am I right?" I again just said quietly, "Yes," thinking, here it comes. "Brace yourself, Tim." I started to shake. "Well," she said, "we have decided that whatever you want to do in your private time is up to you. We don't mind it at all, but several of the girls want to ask you some questions about it. Would you like to answer them for us? Maybe tonight down the pub, say about 7:00. I gave a great big sigh to myself and started to try to stop shaking, and said, "Of course I will, and thank you all for being so understanding." That night I went to the pub, still very nervous about what they were going to ask me. All sorts went through my brain. Then I thought, "There's no turning back now, Tim," and walked up to the door and went in. As I went through the door, I saw all the girls there except Doris, that is. They were all sitting at the table in the corner, drinks in hand, waiting for me. There was also in the middle of them a spare seat for me and a drink waiting. As I approached them, they all smiled and said, "Thanks for coming, Tim. We thought you might not have turned up at all, especially after how Doris was to you." I said, "I don't care what Doris thinks, it's you I care about." I said I would come, so here I am, trying to smile. I sat down and took a good swig of my drink and said, "Thank you for that, I needed it. I will try to answer your questions as truthfully as I can, okay?" I said, "Well, what you like to know?" June spoke first. "Are you gay?" I replied, "No, I don't think so." "Why do you like dressing up as a woman?" Tracy asked. "I don't really know," I said. "It's something I've always liked or wanted to do. I just feel so at home when I'm dressed, so relaxed. My whole personal seems to change. I'm just very happy and contented." Lisa said, "Well, does that mean you would like to be a woman? I mean, have it chopped off or something?" We all laughed. "To be really honest," I said, "I don't know. It would be a very big decision for me, and I'm not sure." June popped up again and said, "Well, to be honest, Tim, you would make a smashing girl, what with your looks and all, and I hate you." We all laughed again. "What do you call yourself when you're dressed?" asked Mary. I said, "I like to think of myself as Tanya." "Good name," someone said. As the drinks flowed, the questions became more personal. I was grilled for the next 2 hours. Do you like girls or boys? What underwear do you wear? Do you wear false boobs? Do you prefer stockings or tights? What brand makeup do you use? The questions were endless, but I tried to answer them all as truthfully as I could. When they ran out of questions, they all looked around at each other, and I saw all of them give a small nod to Christine. She in turn looked at me and said, "Well, Tim, thank you ever so much for telling us all of this. I know it must be very hard talking to us about it all, but we all appreciate your honesty." The girls all looked at Mary and gave a little nod to her. She then said just one word, "Sure." They all nodded back again. "Well, Tim, we have something to ask you. I will tell you the reason why afterwards. When the factory closes down for our 2-week break, us girls always go on holiday together. This year we are going to Ibiza, but one of the girls has had to drop out. Her mother had a fall and broke her leg. So, she is staying at home to look after her." I asked who it was dropping out, hoping it was going to be Doris. No such luck. She replied, "It is May from another line." I said, "I'm sorry, and would you give her my regards and hope her mom gets better soon?" Mary continued, "The girls and I have decided to ask you if you would like to come instead of May, and just losing the booking. Everything is paid for, the hotels, the plane and transport. We're going half board, so there is only spending money to find." She then paused again and looked at me. "One of the reasons we are asking you is that we know that you won't try it on with any of our girls, and you won't try to act all macho-like and spoil it for us, and we all like you a lot, and after what you have had burdened on your back for a long time, we think you need a break. Maybe not Doris though. Well, what do you think? Would you like to come or not?" Suddenly one of my eyes felt wet, then the other one started. The next thing I knew, I was blubbering like a baby. All I could manage was a "Thank you. You're so kind to me, thank you." The next thing I knew was that I was in a great big hug with everyone hugging me. I had never felt so much love before. After a little while, Tracy said to me, "All you will need is shorts and suntan cream, and that's it." We all laughed. It was the night before our holiday. I had packed everything bearing the kitchen sink, shirts, shorts, sandals, clothes, so that if we went out anywhere really nice I had some smart clothes to wear. I even packed some ties. We were leaving at 9 in the morning and catching a coach down to Heathrow in London, where we would be staying at a hotel at the airport, as our flight left at 7:00 in the morning, and we didn't want to travel overnight and be shattered when we arrived at Ibiza, hence the accommodation. When we arrived at the hotel and Mary booked us in, and our luggage was taken up to our rooms by the porter, it seemed the girls had really gone for it all. We the guests retired to the bar. After a few drinks, Mary said, "What we plan to do on holiday is sunbathe, shop, sunbathe, see the sights, sunbathe, shop. You get the idea." I laughed and said, "Yes, I think I get the idea." We all laughed. Doris just smirked. To try to lighten the mood between Doris and me, I said, "Come on, Doris, you can't catch anything from me. I'm quite safe. I've had all my jabs." She just looked at me and said nothing. The next morning, as we had breakfast, our luggage was loaded onto the small coach which would take us to the airport. That took all of 3 minutes. When we arrived, Mary booked us in while our luggage was whisked through customs etc. and loaded on the plane. That left us with only our hand luggage, which just held passports, books, magazines, face wipes, and the other odd things you think you might need on the plane. When it was time to board, we all excitedly went to the plane and found our seats. After we had taken off, and as soon as the steward came around, we ordered drinks to celebrate the start of our holiday. We were in the air about 3 hours when we started descending. We all were excited. We had a lovely landing, and went through immigration with no trouble. We then made our way to the luggage roundabout to collect it, when it eventually appeared. As we were waiting, I saw the girls taking their luggage off, one by one, until I was the only one left without their suitcase. I waited until everybody else had taken their luggage off and the roundabout was empty. My first thought was that it had got stuck somewhere on the conveyor belt, so I asked one of the luggage handlers to check for me. I told him the color of the case, that it had labels on it, everything I could. He came back after about 15 minutes and said that all the luggage from the plane had been accounted for. I was devastated. What could I do now? I looked at the girls and saw Doris smiling. I found out later that at breakfast she had gone back to our rooms and taken my suitcase from outside my bedroom and slid it underneath my bed, so when the porter came to collect our luggage, mine of course wasn't there, so it was never taken. That left me with enough money to buy a couple of clothes, but not able to do or go anywhere else. I was gutted. Surely no one could be that vindictive, could they? I looked at the girls with tears in my eyes and told them about my suitcase. Lisa took charge immediately. Right, she said, let's go to our hotel first, then we can sort this all out, okay? So off we went on the coach which took us to our hotel. When we arrived we checked in and went to our rooms. I sat in my room for about 3/4 of an hour, while quietly crying, my very first holiday abroad with my friends, and this happens. Suddenly there was a knock at my door. I quickly dried my eyes and tried to compose myself, then answered the door. There were all the girls standing there, except Doris. They asked if they could come in. I nodded my head. They could see I had been crying. I said, I'm so sorry I've messed your holiday up. You carry on and have a great time. I'll just stay at the hotel. It will be fine. You can tell me at dinner what you have done and where you've been. I'll look forward to it. Mary looked at me and gave me a great big hug. She said, we know what happened to your suitcase. Doris couldn't stop boasting about it. Then they told me what happened. I said, why would she do something like that? Does she hate me that much for being what I am? Tracy replied, yes, I'm afraid she does. Her son was like you and his father threw him out of the house and disowned him, and she's held a grudge since. I just said, that's so sad, I'm sorry for her, and her son. But that's dealt with now. Now down to your problem, Tim. We girls have put our head together and come up with a drastic but feasible way it can all work out well for all of us, and be a lot of fun for us all. How? I said. Well said, Mary. It's like this quite simply. You like dressing as a girl, and you could quite easily pass for a girl, so we are going to share our clothes with you. So, they all started laughing. You will become a girl, with us. Then they threw dresses, skirts, bras, panties, tights, and a swimsuit at me. What size shoe do you take, Tanya? A 7, I replied. Did she just call me Tanya? Right here you are then. A pair of 3-inch high heels were passed to me. There you go, Tanya, the start of your first holiday as a girl. Now hurry up and put your things away and get dressed so that all of us girls can go out for a meal. I nearly cried again, but just said, you're the best friends a girl could have. They all cheered. I put my stuff away in my drawers, hanging my skirts, blouses and dresses up. I had a nice shower and then decided what I was going to wear. I knew we were going to a nice restaurant, so I thought I had better look my best. I found a pair of dark blue panties with a white frill around the waist and legs. I knew how to tuck, so that was no problem for me. Next came a matching dark blue bra with white frills. It was an uplift one, so it gave me a small cleavage. I painted my finger and toenails a bright red and waited for them to dry. Then came my tights and a white half slip. I had decided to wear the light blue dress with the shoulder straps. It was elasticated in the middle, so it hugged me there, giving me an appearance of a waist, while making my bust and hips look bigger, more womanish. I sat in front of the mirror and got the makeup bag they had given me, and it was everything I needed: eyeliner, eyeshadow, foundation, lipstick, everything, so I got on trying to make myself look nice but not trampy. I had light blue eyeshadow to match my dress and eyes, blusher to lift my cheekbones higher, and of course my black eyeliner finished in a V shape at the ends, and then 2 coats of my mascara. I kept my hair at shoulder length so I never needed a wig, so I brushed it into a ponytail and put a blue ring around it to hold it in place. After getting my face looking as I wanted it to look, I put on the high heels. I had high heels at home, but not as high as these. It took me a little while to get used to them, but then I was ready. I picked up my clutch bag, put my lipstick and some tissues in it and sat down, getting very nervous as I waited for the girls. I had never been outdressed before and I was sure that people would see me as a man dressed up as a woman. By the time the girls arrived, I was shaking like a leaf. When they all saw me, I got wolf whistles and wows from them. They couldn't believe it was me. Tracy said, "I'll tell you what, girl, if someone doesn't try to pull you tonight, I'm the queen. You are looking 100% woman, wow." All the others commented as well, giving me the confidence to grab my bag and walk out with them, as one of the girls. We went to quite fancy restaurant. I was still nervous as we all went in, but I was treated as just another woman. It was marvelous, something I think I have always dreamt about. We had our drinks and our meal. It was perfect until I had to go to the loo. I whispered to June that I had to go. She laughed and said, "Anybody want the loo because Tanya and I are just going?" I looked at June with a quizzical look. Again she laughed and said quietly, "When girls go to the loo they never go along, always in twos or threes, that way they can talk to each other in private, like, 'The boy I'm with smells' or something, or 'I like that boy on the next table, looks quite fit,' see what I mean?" I smiled and nodded, while I thought, now I know why girls go in twos or threes, another mystery solved. We all had a great time there, except for Doris, who was not invited. I wonder why? On the way home, I wished it would never end. Then I thought, don't be silly, you've got 2 whole weeks of this, and a big smile crept its way across my face. We arrived back at the hotel and wandered into the bar. We were all laughing about something or the other. When I saw Doris sitting in corner having a drink, I felt really sorry for her and went up and asked if I could sit down, just for a moment with her. She looked up and I could see the surprise in her eyes. "Doris," I said, "I am so sorry if I have offended you by being one of them, but that's who I am, and the girls told me about your son, and I'm really sorry about that as well, but we can't help being who we are. We don't have a choice, we're just born slightly different, that's all, we're still just normal human beings with feelings." She looked at me with a tear in her eye. I love my son, it never bothered me at all. But my husband was a staunch black and white man, no grays. He felt embarrassed because Jim wasn't in his eyes, a proper man, going down to the pub, getting drunk, worshipping his football team, but I loved him because he was so caring, so considerate, and he was my son. I put my arm around her as she started to cry. It was 4 months later we heard he had been in an accident. He never recovered. My husband wouldn't even go down to see him in the hospital, and you reminded me of him so much, I was afraid to get too close, just in case anything happened to you. I gave her a great big hug and told her to come over and join us. I said to the girls, if no one minds, Doris is joining us, as we have sorted everything out. The girls all cheered. For the next 2 weeks, my world was my oyster. I went on trips, I sunbathed in my swimsuit, and even got tan lines. I shopped with the girls, we eyed up the boys, they started picking out different boys for me, then getting me to choose what boys I liked and why. I was feeling more and more like a normal girl. The turning point for me was when we all went out to the local nightclub. Girls got in free, of course, whoopee for being a girl. We had a few drinks before, so we were quite merry, but not drunk. We were sitting at a table, glasses in hand, when 2 boys came over and asked Mary and I to dance. I started to splutter, and before I could say no, Mary grabbed my hand, pulled me up and said to the boys, "Of course we will, won't we, Tanya?" I was boxed in, so I got up and went with this boy to the dance floor. I made sure that I could still see the girls. After the first dance, a slow one came on. I was ready to go and sit down, but Tom, that was his name, grabbed me around the waist and said, "Come on, Tanya, just one more, a nice smoochy one." The next thing I know was that we were dancing about an inch apart. Then he pulled me even closer. He had his arms around my waist, and for some reason I put my arms around his neck. He then leant his head forward to kiss me. Without thinking about it, I opened my mouth to take his tongue, and we kissed deeply. All the girls were looking on, cheering and hooting. I didn't realize until we stopped kissing. I just went really red. When the song finished, I went back to the table, still very red. All the girls were cheering, Tracy said. Well, what was it like? Did you enjoy it? June asked. Did you get hand wander? That would have given him a shock. We all laughed. After that I had a few more dances, and a few more snogs, and a few more drinks. Mary said, I think we had better go now before she starts taking her knickers off for everyone. We all agreed, as we were sunbathing tomorrow and we wanted to get on the beach before it got packed. Later that evening we were all sitting down after our meal and June said, Well, Tanya, it's time to leave tomorrow. Have you enjoyed being a girl for the 2 weeks? I replied, to be really honest, I said looking at all the girls, these last 2 weeks have really made me think about my future as a woman, and I've decided that when I get home, I'm going to see about going the whole hog, or as Lisa said, have it chopped off or something. They all laughed, and one more thing girls, if you don't mind I'm traveling back as Tanya. They all clapped and said things like, well done, it's about time, I'm so pleased for you. Doris with tears in her eyes said, Tanya, I'm so proud of you. Then she gave me a great big hug. And I did, I traveled back as Tanya, went to my boss, George Cranebridge, as Tanya and explained everything to him, telling him that I was going to transition into a woman, and would there be any chance that I could still work for him. His reply was, if the girls don't mind neither do I. So here I am 2 years further on down the line, I am now fully a woman, working at the factory, with all my good friends, who I still go on holiday with, but this time Tanya brings all her own clothes.